Hello, Qtron man. Long time no talking to you and seeing you on a video. You have brought up the zero-sum game. I notice I did not say it was a zero-sum game, and I also did not say it was wrong for somebody to become wealthy or that I mind. In fact, somebody brought up to me about this in the comments. Oh, hey, this doesn't take into account that sometimes people lose all their money. Sometimes people lose all their money. It doesn't bring that up because we're talking about a statistical system analysis. It doesn't matter if some of the individuals are switching. It's just like if I splash water and say, look, it went 3 feet in the air. Yes, some of the water molecules probably went 100 feet in the air. We're not talking about individuals. We're talking about the statistical situation. And if the top 5% keeps getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, and the bottom 95% poorer and poorer, you have a crisis brewing. History shows us that. It's a practical thing. Now, thanks to Ronald Reagan, we all understand that the pie might get higher. So the idea being that there's growth in all of the sectors, and the fact that the share that the wealthy get doesn't change the fact that the poor are getting more as well. But that's simply not the case. You can look at the statistics. The bottom 20% of the people aren't keeping up with the inflation. Okay, so you have to look at the real world. Okay, you have to look at the real world. The fact that it's possible that all this growth is beneficial and we're looking at the wrong statistic doesn't deal with the fact that most of the world lives in sub-sustenance levels of economic poverty. All right. Now, in terms of the zero-sum game, I don't believe that we should analyze all of the economy as a zero-sum game. We're talking about game theory. What kind of game is it? It's resource management. I don't think all resource management should be analyzed as a zero-sum game. Okay, when I breathe a breath of air, it's not like I'm responsible for someone else's asphyxiation, because there's so much air that it doesn't really help to analyze the situation that way. But as you might note, there is in fact a finite amount of oxygen in the world at any given time. If I am a company that is spewing thousands or hundreds of thousands of tons of toxins into the air, then the zero-sum nature of the atmosphere might matter. Oh, but it's still not zero-sum because there are forests creating more oxygen. But if we cut down the forest, we reduce that. The point being, even if it's not a zero-sum game, of course, all resources are finite. And you have to look at the relationship. How quickly is it replenished? You can't simply say, oh, well, its resources replenished so we can use as much as we want. No, because you can't use it faster than it's replenished. So I don't see what's complicated about that. You're ignoring the mathematics of the situation where you have to actually study, what are the impacts on the resources. And you notice I did not say that there's a problem with any random wealthy person compared to me being less wealthy, or for that matter, me being relatively wealthy compared to some other person. I did not bring up that issue. The issue with, for example, wages has been brought up, and as we're discussing it, the ratio of a CEO to the lowest paid worker in that company. You see, within this shared system that they are both a part of, that system takes in resources and how they're partitioned inside the company. Well, why would I care about that? Oh, well, for a lot of reasons. Why would I care if my body, when it breathed air, gave all the oxygen to the brain? Even after the brain had enough oxygen, just keep giving it to the brain, and something else is going to not have oxygen. Or nutrition. Give all the nutrition to the brain. Why would I care? Well, because my survival relies on it. Now, in general, why would I care about this disparity? As I said, this is not from a principled argument of is it right, is it wrong. It's because it's going to lead to a crisis. If you keep taking money from the poorest people that are already having trouble surviving and surviving in malnourished and obviously under-resourced ways, there's going to be a violent revolution. What don't you get about that? There will have to be. People simply won't put up with it forever. oh, we shouldn't give in to them. What are you talking about? We shouldn't give in to them. We shouldn't give in to the fact that they're going to want to survive. I shouldn't think that maybe my prosperity is related to that. That if I have more nutrients than I need, that maybe we should give nutrients to some part that is under-nutrient, that is nutrient-starved, under-nutrientized. And then you focus on this zero-sum game. Look, resources are finite. They are finite. How they're distributed and whether we, apply more of the ideas of a zero-sum game depends on the nature of what makes these resources finite. Real estate used to be plenty of it. Now, the real estate in New York is finite. If there's no, or on this island I live on where they make $100 million resorts. Love the $100 million resorts. Gives jobs. It's a, relatively clean industry compared to some other things. But yeah, I think that the people that work in those resorts need enough of the resources to be able to afford homes so that they can live, somewhere relatively near to the resort. And, the idea that you're going to put it into, like, you just hate why would you care how much someone else has made? I actually don't. I think that some people should be millionaires and other people shouldn't. And I'm certainly not planning to be at the top of the resource heap. And I've seen plenty of wealthy people work hard for that wealth. Work in ways I don't want to, and I'm perfectly happy for them to be rewarded in a way I'm not rewarded, just like they're working in a way that I'm not working. The problem is if we allow this to go on where the top percentages keep the resources and they just flow in that direction, that there's a problem with the system. Economic systems are about circulating resources. And if the resources, as they circulate, actually, and from another analysis, are simply accumulating, that is a problem. So that's what I'm talking about. And why would we care? Well, sometimes we do care because it's a limited resource and it needs to be shared. And sometimes we simply care because the people that are getting the short end of the stick have all of the means of life at their disposal. And at the point which they can't even fucking feed themselves and their family, you have to be an idiot to think that they will not resort to other means. Turn to crime, which leads to police crackdowns, which leads to police states, which leads to more crime, which leads to crisis. And the boom and bust of capitalism is all very well and good if you make sure that the bust doesn't make people starve. But what eventually happens when over centuries all you have is the money going towards the wealthy is that one of those busts becomes a violent revolution. I'm not into that. When the violent thugs from the poor take over, the gun-wielding thugs, there is some redistribution of wealth, and then those violent thugs tend to just do the same thing and keep accumulating the resources, and it takes several generations. But I am not into that. That is just a perpetuation of the cycle, and even going a step backwards. It depends. There's a lot of luck involved. So I don't want to do that. I want to have a system where resources continue to circulate and nutrients are spread throughout the system of people cooperating for each other's survival. Now, whether that's a social system or some sort of free market system, that's a big important detail, but it is just a detail. Because the other thing is to look at the system and how does it work? How is the distribution working? Not whether the system is this way or that way, but what are the results of the system? It's like, why do we like steel bridges better than wooden bridges? Well, we don't, right? Wooden bridges are lovely, but steel bridges tend to be stronger. But if you could make a wood bridge that was just as strong as a steel bridge, then it would be better. Okay, if you could make a free market laissez-faire system that keeps the nutrients circulating in an organic system, then great, But just the fact that everything is privately held, it's still a social system. You're sharing roads. Oh, the roads are private. Well, you're sharing them. How? Through